So good evening, everybody. My name is Margaret. I'm the chair of the Whitaker Community Council. Welcome to the June 12th general hybrid meeting.
I'm Eric Knudsen, and we relocated here in December from Astoria with a food cart, Cosmic Charlie's Cheese Shack. And Eric we purchased a cotton candy machine a couple weeks ago. Then we're looking for places to set it up and give out cotton candy. So we biked through Ruth Baskin Trail. We live in the Callion neighborhood, but our food cart is over here on West 6th and Gilmore. So we bike from Callion mostly every day when we start picking up supplies, and we bike through that park. And
right over here. I'm not sure the name of the park. I ran into Thea. I forget her name, her last name. She lives over here. That's right.
Yes, so we ran into her.
Yeah, and she was mentioning the 50th anniversary picnic. And I mentioned it in the cotton candy machine, and she's like, "Oh my God, you should get a hold of." Yeah. Here we are. And it brought us to mind too, like we are very new to this neighborhood. We're also very new to Eugene. We don't know really anybody here. We just kind of spur of the moment. We came out here on the 1st of December to relocate our business, and it's been quite a challenge, getting the word out. So we're kind of out here also just kind of let you guys know who we are, where we are, and that we're here. And then another thing is we're trying to build up awareness to that food court that we're in. One thing that I wanted to mention, or at least maybe get some advice or kind of start this dialogue, at the corner of 5th and Elmenden, it's that intersection that you cannot drive through unless you're on a bicycle. Mm-hmm. If that was not there, the revenue would increase exponentially for us in that lot.
It's like we're cut off.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest challenges with that food court there. Is people do not like to pull in there off of 6th, but if they could come in off of 5th, it would be perfect.
Well, they can go off 5th or off.
It's a challenge.
And turn there, but then by then they're like, "Where is it?" So and the guy, I was like, "We don't know. We can put a sign over there by Rival Skate Shop." I mean, we're just that's kind of why we're here. Like, we didn't even know we were part of the wait until he talked to Thea.
Yeah, I had no idea. In fact, somebody I thought mentioned that we were like a block off of the way, so I didn't think we were. So that kind of got me thinking, well, hey, maybe you guys might know somebody or know where to start this dialogue in the city to see if maybe we could do something with that intersection.
I think that was probably only there because that's being used for what used to be used for.
Mm-hmm.
Which was something with big trucks.
Are you talking that Archimoto?
No, it was something long ago. I remember the street
Sure.
Forced you to turn.
Mm-hmm.
It was like keeping industrial from running.
It kind of has that feel like it's something old and outdated that doesn't need to be there anymore.
Right. I agree. I've seen people drive over it.
Oh no. So yeah, we just wanted to come and say hi and like say that we're here, and Cedar Tree is part of the and we're so happy to know that we are. It's pretty much the coolest place we've discovered in Eugene since we've been out here. Yeah, we really like it. So
yeah, I'm really excited to know that we were part of it.
Yeah.
I thought we were just off about a block. So to know that we actually still are.
And we're open.
It's really cool.
We're open to pop-ups, and we're open to the cotton candy machine. You have our contact information, and yeah, we just wanted to say hi and thank you for having this awesome committee and council. It's cool.
And if anybody would like to
Yeah, you get a video,
It looks good. Fantastic. Do we have any other public comment at the moment?
Could you actually respond to that? We live right near Fourth and Elevated, and we know that. And one of our neighbors on the 5th, she and her husband worked really hard years ago to have that happen. We used to booming down, and people, after he died after that, some other city, so we'll listen to him. Sure. A long time ago, maybe things were
They zoom down 6 sometimes, and then they don't want to turn in. People are afraid to come into the lot where our food cart is. And we get it every day. Someone's like, "I didn't even know this was here." It's scary, like we get it every day. So just trying to get everything out there. And that's just one of the things that we thought was just a thing that I was like, why is that there?
That would make perfect sense.
Yeah.
I can understand what that would be.
I love going to that food court because that's great breakfast freedoms.
Yes.
I love going there. I ride my bike there and I go through that diverter.
Yeah.
There's only one bike rack there. Do you know if the majority of the customers drive there? Potentially you might be able to go after, because it has really great food there. It has a great ecosystem, I feel, in there. Maybe you could attract more bikers or other modes.
Yeah,
It is kind of car centric, maybe adding a few more bike racks, better bike racks.
right.
Might be a cheap way to say, hey, everybody, let's buy one more and advertise to potentially other modes. I don't know.
I was thinking about doing like one of those videos where you speed it up, you know, and it's like coming out of that area where that 10 thing is.
Yeah.
On my bike, 'cause like I said, we ride every day through there. It's, I love that little neighborhood, that intersection. I feel like I'm from Wisconsin, Stevens Point, Wisconsin, and that little neighborhood makes me feel like my neighborhood back home. Like, I just say, I feel like Stevens Point over here, I just love it. So, anyway. Yeah, that's fine. That's what we might have done.
Welcome to the neighborhood.
Yeah.
You don't mind?
I didn't know what you was getting on name. Thank you so much.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you want to turn it on?
Yes, and it turned on. There were two in there and that one turned on. All right, so my understanding is that you guys can't hear. Is that correct?
Well, let me switch to this. Sorry. No, I don't know. It needs a receiver.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, we'll just, can you hear me now? Can you,
Yes,
if you can hear me?
yes.
So yeah, if we can all just speak up just a little bit, that would be fantastic. I'm sorry?
And come forward like you are. Where is the microphone that they hear? This-
Right there.
Maybe people just stand closer.
Correct, or just come up here.
Yeah.
Like when you guys do your presentation, just come up front. Emily, when you do your presentation. Okay. It's all right. Thank you, Emily. So we're just gonna take a few minutes, go over, I think we all know how the meetings work. We ask that everybody please keep themselves on mute for the moment. Elliot here is our vice chair. He's running, the Google Meets portion. So if you look down at the bottom of your screen, you can see where there's a place to raise your hand if you want to raise it on the screen. Elliot can put questions in the side and put people's names and people in the room. As you have questions, please do the same. And Elliot will put your name in the chat, and that way we make sure that everyone has an opportunity to ask any questions. Do you want to add anything, Elliot?
Nope, that works. Yeah, I'll just keep a running tab of questions. Just keep adding questions and I'll tally who's up next. And I'll let you know.
Well, if you can put it in the chat so people can know, so they're also ready for, when it's their time, which is great. Thank you. So our first order of business actually is, we're gonna have a quick election. So we have an open seat on the executive board for secretary. As well as we have a few open seats for any at-large board members. So we will, start off with, electing a new secretary. And I, would like to elect Julie. I would like to nominate Julie to be secretary. Do I have a second?
Janice?
Julie, do you want to say anything?
Hi, my name is Julie Bowman. I have started out with the Whitaker Community Council serving on the Parks and Safety Committee, specifically the disaster resiliency portion, and also the music and activities in Scobert Gardens. I've coordinated that along with Sue, another neighbor, for 2 years. This year we have a Park with Parks grant we'll hear more about, but there's a need for a secretary and I'm willing to serve. So I'm interested in helping the community.
Woo-hoo, thank you. Are there any other nominations for secretary? Going once, going twice, 3 times. Fantastic. Are you setting up a Google form?
Already did, and I've just got a count of how many people are here in person that are eligible. Probably have 11.
That are eligible to vote?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we have to have a form?
We do actually, on the desk. If you could just take this piece of paper that's in front of you, we're recycling. And just, say yay or nay. This is just for secretary. If, you're eligible to vote, if you hadn't been to a meeting within the last year.
And the kids have the plastic chip.
Yeah, they're brand new. Thank you.
And we have.
Thank you very much. My colleague has been gracious and agreed to all 300 of the votes. You all have been voting it?
No, last year we had.
You guys?
Already did it. We're good.
Thank you for being honest, appreciate it.
I mean, we might have, our house might change.
Okay, I think we can.
Anna attends often, but you guys are participating through her connection. So
Did you get a chance to vote, Elliot? Did you guys vote?
Yeah.
Right.
Just so everyone knows, actually, Julie has been our interim secretary. Since I believe, for 3 months now,
Since April.
since April, so she's been doing a fantastic job. We're very, happy to have
And the results.
her. And the results are, drum roll.
Unanimous, yes.
Sorry, 1 second, Margaret, can you check your phone? I didn't log in into the Whitaker one here. Results pending. Sorry.
Oh, wait a minute. Yes, there you
All right, 10 seconds.
go. You're good to go?
1 sec. Okay, we have 3 yeses online.
Extension? No.
No no's, no abstain.
Okay, fantastic. All right, congratulations, Julie. You are now officially a member of the executive committee and our secretary, so thank you. Do we have any nominations? We do have 4 at-large board seats available. If there's anyone that would care to run for, being an at-large member. I'm sorry? Going once, going twice, 3 times, okay, fantastic. I'm sorry?
I'll save me making a ballot.
Yes, yes, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
And we're 5 minutes ahead of schedule, so that's good. Just real quick, I had someone, message me the other day, that is down on, they're right on Blair. They messaged me and they said, oh my God, there's stuff going on out here and I can't do anything and my customers are leaving. I need for you to come and fix it for me. And it's somebody that I know and it doesn't matter, but I'm like, well, I'm not sure what you want me to do. They're like, well, you're the head of the council. Fix it, isn't that what you're supposed to do? So being that this person is my friend and I know them, I got up off my lazy couch and walked down and sat down and said, okay, I'm here as myself. I'm not here representing the council, and I came to give you some moral support so that you understand that that's not what the council does. And they asked me, they said, well, basically, they said, well, then what good are you? And what I explained to them is that what we are a neighborhood association and a nonprofit. As a neighborhood association, we are very excited to do things. Like in the past year, we have put people in new homes, got them out of their cars, off of the streets, help them pay their rent and stay where they live. We just started the bucket gardening for those of you that saw Briandra at the Saturday market or at Woodford Market. It was fantastic. We had record numbers. Please look for it on our Facebook and online. We handed out buckets, dirt, as well as vegetables. So that people that live in apartments, that are renters, that have concrete for yards, that they can go home and plant stuff and grow it. One of the most exciting things about that was the children coming with their parents and taking this stuff home to go grow. That's what we do. We also provide a platform for neighborhood concerns, for community members that want to say, hey, what's going on? There's something happening in the park. There's changes going on. We want to make sure that whatever's happening is in the best interest of the neighborhood. And so, being that we are not only a neighborhood association, on a separate side, we're also a nonprofit, just so that everybody understands things like, just an example, when Claire's Rent was recalled. Claire's was, she lives in the neighborhood, but because of the fact that we're a 501c3 nonprofit, we could not take a stand on that because it's against nonprofit law. So we couldn't say anything about that. But when it comes to things like what's happening in our neighborhood park, we certainly can. However, what we do as a board is that it is our responsibility to gather all the information, to talk about it, to talk to the neighbors about it, and then come to a conclusion on what the entire community feels. And that's part of what we're doing, and that has been going on now for well over a year, I believe. But what we do is we offer a platform for people to come and talk about those types of things. And that's what we're doing here today. So we're very happy to have Sue Dockstander and Steve Mitchell give us a presentation of Cooper Gardens and talk about the vision of what's happening there. And what I ask is that if you have some questions for them, please wait till after the presentation. They may answer the question before you actually ask it through the information that they're going to share. And we also have a special guest, Emily Proudfoot. Emily is from the city, and she is going to share the final-ish update and what's happening on with Scoper Park and what the city is looking to do, and how many ideas that have come from the Whitaker that they've incorporated in their changes. Okay, so please let me hand the floor over.
We're gonna come over here so that maybe the can hear us. The owl. Whatever that is.
My God.
Oh, you said, okay. That's okay, that's okay. Here we go. So we just want to do a quick introduction. I am an environmental sociologist. I just graduated with a PhD in environmental sociology from the University of Oregon. I specialize in environmental justice issues. And so that's all I'm going to say about it. I have a longtime Whitaker resident. I've lived both in at 1163 West Fourth Avenue, since the 1990s, and since the 1980s. For a while, it lived on West Fifth, 1179, which backs up to the park, so across the street and behind my house.
My name is Steen, and I freelance as a set designer, for theater projects. And have done other, props and puppets for the opera and, the ballet, that kind of thing. I also worked as the produce manager at Red Barn Grocery from 90 to 97. So we've been connected, basically spent our entire adult lives in the Whitaker community and have lived across the street from the park for almost 30 years. So that's what we're bringing with us, who we are.
Okay, I'm just gonna do a brief, some of the current concerns about our park and about our neighborhood. I think this is something that actually everyone should be concerned about, both in Whitaker, but also in Eugene in general. Is the issue of climate change and urban heat islands. This really speaks directly to resilience issues and environmental justice. We are in an environmental injustice area in Whitaker and also in Bethel. We've got, as we know, rising temperatures with climate change, which creates unpredictable weather patterns, as we know with the heat dome. It also worsens social inequality. The urban heat island, which is an idea, or it's not just an idea, it's an actual fact, is that in areas that are built up with lots of concrete, less greenery, often hold on to heat longer. There was a study done in 2017 by a PSU researcher that found that Eugene in particular had higher temperatures than other cities, including Portland. So that's an issue. So more concrete, more heat, longer into evening and afternoon. It increases the health burdens, and I just listed a few there. But we have these issues here in Whitaker, and they are impacting people that are often renters, homeless people, people who are pregnant. These are the kinds of issues that urban heat islands affect. Next slide, please. So environmental injustice has to do with lower income, higher housing and food insecurity, industrial and commercial activity. And it is a deliberate and knowledgeable outcome of neglect, both political and economic neglect. That usually manifests in not replacing street trees, paving over areas that are then going to reflect the heat back, and also higher policing in those areas, which is also a huge hallmark of environmental injustice, often associated with environmental racism, but also associated with low-income neighborhoods. So as you can see here, the 2017 Vivek Chandas showed that we've got a real pattern, and I blew up the picture from the 7 p.m. So this is 6 a.m., 3 p.m., or 3 or 4 p.m., and 7 p.m. And you can see that the heating, UHI, or the heating effect, happens long into the night, and it pretty much stays into the night. This is something the city was aware of. It was done in 2017. It was covered by the Eugene Weekly. It was covered by KLCC. It has not been, as far as I saw in the 2020 climate change plan, it has not actually been dealt with, even though the city acknowledges that we need tree canopy. Next slide, please. Oh, no, that's okay. It stays hot because we don't have a lot of tree canopy, and we do not have what is called tree equity. Tree equity is a combined measure of canopy, social equity, and community need. So there is an index that the city actually knows about and used. The Urban Forestry Department has used it. Whitaker is at a high priority, and we are an example of environmental injustice here. Okay. You might want to even go. Yeah.
You can see at the picture on the right-hand side of the slide shows, Scobert Garden Park. You can see the red and yellow dots that indicate trees that have died. The yellow dot of the street, there were actually 4 street trees, and while we watched it die while we've been living in our house, so that should be a red dot too. It also doesn't include all of the red dots there ought to be. So part of what's happened with our park is just sort of neglect, in a sense. Trees die, they're not replaced. Mature shrubs were torn out, they were not replaced. So we've lost vegetation in this one little oasis that we have.
One of the things that is a very important part that Steen touched on is that vegetation was torn out in the interest of policing. Studies show that multi-story, and when I say multi-story, I'm talking about trees, shrubs, and the herb layer, which is the grass and the lower areas, plants. They are more effective at ameliorating the problems with climate change in urban heat islands. So you can't just have trees and grass. You have to have multiple stories or multiple layers in order to cool down an area. Oh, it's just like, please. There you go, Steve.
So this is a slide that is one of the ones provided by the city showing the existing park, some of the tree canopy, the current playground area. And you can see that the back of the park is a considerable amount of it is fenced off. It got fenced off in the late 90s. So there has been no public access to that area since the late 90s. So that's what we've got right now. And the next slide is just an overhead shot to show that I just did a screenshot to give an idea. You can see that the grass is completely dead up at the front, in spite of it being watered. In the summer, you can tell that's just the hottest area of the park. There's just no shade, and it bakes. And you can see sort of along the left-hand side of the park, there's all where there used to be mature shrubs. You can also see that the grass dries out a lot over there as well. So what we were presented with, and I'm sure that Emily will talk about maybe what is going on currently, the designs that we were presented with by Cameron McCarthy, the firm that was hired by the city. And one of the reasons that Sue and I started talking more about doing a park design was that both of the concepts that were presented added a huge amount of concrete to the park. And when we had our last meeting, I asked how many square feet it was on these 2 designs and was told that they did not know. I'm alarmed, small park, and that the hottest part that you just saw, all the dry grass, there's concrete. The little brown squares are proposed trees surrounded by concrete, so the chances of them becoming mature trees is small. You can see that the street tree that died is also replaced by concrete. So I don't see this as a particularly helpful addition to our park. So next slide, please. This is concept 2. Once again, hottest part of the park. Trees surrounded by concrete, the mature trees at the front endangered by the heat reflecting off the concrete. And the third little brown circle is actually a historic apple tree that was never identified as such. It's a mature apple tree, and that would also be surrounded by concrete. So I got really worried when I saw these, and since I at least have some, I haven't done landscaping, but I know how to do a scale drawing. So I decided that I should draw something else. So I want to talk just briefly about park furniture. What we have currently is 1 bench, 1 porta pot that is chained and locked shut, and 1 surveillance wagon. Oh, we also have 1 trash can. At some point, 3 benches have been removed over the years. 1 of our trash cans has been taken away, as one of our neighbors pointed out when we did have a meeting in the park. And right now, it's supposedly accessible. I would say the chain and lock make it less accessible. So that neighbors, whether they are housed or unhoused, have no opportunity to use this restroom. And I can attest to the fact that our front yard is a much more private place. People are going to go whether they have a restroom or not. And that's happening. So we really need to have a permanent bathroom. The next slide is the drawing that I did for the park, which saves the green space in the middle. It does add some concrete, but just a concrete path, same width as the sidewalk. It puts a 4th Street tree back in. It moves the play structure to a shaded area so that and also there's a wheelchair accessible picnic table. I looked over at Sladden Park. They've got a nice one over there, but it puts that concrete in the shade. And then rather than tearing out the concrete curb that we have right now, that's around the play structure, why not take out the play structure, save the basalt columns, and create a native plant and shrub garden that actually has a bench in it, that's educational, that has a sign talking about native pollinators. We added a bike rack to a permanent restroom that's right up at the front of the park. So that's easy to deal with. So we've got trash cans right at the entrance of the park and more use happening at the back of the park, and then a community garden in that dog leg area. So it's all about making this into more of an oasis. Looking at Sladden Park, there have been trees added to the perimeter. So I want to see more trees added back into this park. That really needs to happen if we're looking toward the future. Next slide, please. So the dog leg. I wanted to talk about the dog leg section of the park. Like I said, it's part of what was fenced off in the late 90s. I'm not sure exactly when, but an agreement was made between the city and some of the homeowners whose yards, their backyards abut this area. So there was no public input about this. So there are just a few private homeowners who are using public land for their private gardening. I would like to see this be an actual community garden area and partnering with an organization to do that. It's you now.
I know.
Okay.
And, so I just want to, so I was given documents when I asked for them. I got to see the agreement. One of the things that's mentioned in the agreement with these private landowners who all own 3 of the 4 own land that own Airbnbs and are making, as you saw, quite a bit of money. All of this is, all the information I provided is clickable. All of the clickable links are peer reviewed or are publicly available. You do not need a PhD to do this or to do this research. But what was being represented in the agreement is that the neighbors are saying, oh, it's illicit activity, we can't have illicit activity. We know that since the dog leg was fenced off, the only people who have access are the homeowners. They have been using the space, public space that we subsidize, for the last 20 years. They finally got an agreement. Some of them have, many of them already in their Airbnb descriptions talk about the private oasis of their backyard and the private courtyards. They went to the city and they talked about illicit activity, but on that clickable quotation right there talks about how quiet and peaceful it is in the neighborhood. So there's, on the one hand, there's the representation of the danger, and on the other hand, to customers, what's being represented is, oh, this is a great neighborhood, it's a groovy neighborhood, come here, spend a lot of money, spend it in my house, spend it at my place. So that is a concern, and it's a concern partly because I believe that the city is not following its own social equity and inclusion dictates and its triple bottom line, the sustainability, which is another document that is available through the city, which is inclusion of the entire community. So when we talk about, please, next slide, grassroots community building, I don't know what community building we're doing when we're handing over a public space to private people. when we have to have a bucket gardening thing for kids with parking lots for backyards rather than a possibility of a butterfly garden and a possible free place to put their hands in the dirt. This is an issue for this community, entire community, and I hope that people, anyone who is listening online, also takes it back, if you're not in Whitaker, to your own community, because this is not okay. It's not okay for the city to pave over things, and it's not okay for them to take over what is public space and hand it over to private landowners. And I think that's all. Steen has some concluding, we have an agreement, we have a partner to work with. I think there are more people that could be involved, or more organizations like Huerto, De La Familia, Beyond Toxics that I've reached out to, who could be included in stewarding this park rather than private homeowners. And I think you want to finish.
Yeah, I just had one thought that actually was something said to me by an old woman named Millie who used to live in East Blair Housing Co-op. We were talking with her more than 20 years ago about, tearing out some grass in the city strip. And that, well, it's not really ours, it's a city strip. And she looked at us and she said, well, who is the city? We are the city. We are the city. This is our land. We are the city. And I've never forgotten that. And when we're talking about the park, that's what we need to remember. We are the city. We are Whitaker. We want to have the park that we want to have. We want to have green space in this heat island. We want to have that oasis. And we need to remember that we are the city. Thank you.
We're running a little bit late on time. Great presentation. Thank you. Do we have any questions?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I'm not in charge. Sorry.
Janice going and then Chris and
I was curious because I'm kind of running that before Jane, I'm family, but the sheriff, the boundaries, bleed away. It was surveyor involved in constructing amendments to ensure that they weren't surrendering public property, as you pointed out.
Well,
private owners.
I don't-
That's not the address.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know about that. I don't know if the surveyor was involved. I do know from the documents that were provided to me after I angrily requested them, and I realized what was happening. And we've been dealing with this stuff for a long time in the city. That the neighbors actually approached the city, and the city did not make it public, as far as I know, to people in the community that the homeowners wanted to buy that piece of property. And that this is sort of a stopgap.
Yes.
So, I don't know. I mean, it's not very
And
transparent.
donated that.
Yeah, yeah.
They gave it to the.
Yeah, the city, yeah.
Okay, Chris Work, please.
Thank you.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. Sorry for the backlighting, and I've got my little kiddo here. My wife's out of town. You might hear some TV in the background from my other one, so multitasking. I just want to thank you. That was a tremendous presentation, and I really think that a revitalized Scobert Gardens has the potential to radically transform the neighborhood for the better. And although I live a little bit closer to Sladden, when I do take my kids to Scobert, I just want to indicate I loved how you put the playground in the back in your proposal, not just because of the canopy and the heat island effect, but because of traffic purposes. Whenever I take my kids there, in all seriousness, there's two things I'm worried about: needles in cars. And I think the needles will take care of itself within time if we create a place that people want to go and where parents want to take their kids, aren't afraid to take their kids. And if we make it compelling enough and attractive enough, they're going to want to play there. And by having a playground that's tucked in like that, I think is so crucial to parents feeling like their kids can roam around free. So regardless of what shape this takes, I just highly encourage us to think about that play structure staying in the rear like you've proposed. But again, thank you. I thought it was really, really compelling proposal.
Fantastic, thank you.
My sentiment is second what Chris was just saying.
Can you speak up just a little?
My name is Neva Weaver. I actually grew up in the neighborhood. I went to Whitaker Elementary School. I grew up with people and my friends and me playing in the park right there. And it was the community there. It was somewhere where it felt safe to gather and play. And I think in an effort to police the area, it has made that space more and more and more unwelcome. Whereas if it is set up to where people will actually be there, that is a self-policing area. So to say, like, if we are actually there, if it is a good, comfortable, wonderful place for community to gather, it will be a better taken care of spot. And I think that the design offered encourages that.
Thank you very much. So, Steve, can I ask you, we're running a little.
Yeah, no, we were.
So what I would like to ask is if people have more questions for you, or Emily, after Emily's done with her presentation, are you available to answer them?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
We never stop.
I would like to introduce Emily Proudfoot. Sorry about that. She has as well. She's come, she works for the city. She's been working with Stoker Park as well. And I think, you don't need any more introductions. Everyone knows who you are.
They do? Okay.
Please welcome.
Hi, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Emily Proudfoot. I'm the principal landscape architect in the Parks Planning Office, the Eugene. I've been with the city 25 years working in parks. My first 10 years I spent doing a lot of park building and implementation, and then since 2008, in the Parks Planning Office, it's been a lot of doing a ton of park renovation and fixing and all kinds of work on stewarding the system. And I mostly work in developed parks. So, you know, our system is over 5,000 acres now. The majority of that is in natural areas, which I think is so reflective of our community's values. Our conservation values. It's pretty awesome. So I mostly work in developed parks. I worked on the skate park. I was one of the project managers for the skate park. I was a project manager for the downtown riverfront park. I've also done teeny tiny parks, like our first park, the Urban World Park. And I've spent a lot of time talking to people over the years on parks, and I understand how much people love their parks in this community and how vital they are to their well-being. Over 90% of people, again, told us in our last survey last year that parks are vital to their well-being. So, I know how important it is, and I'm really privileged and lucky to be represented, you know, being able to represent artists and be involved in it. So, let's see. Okay, I think Joseph Flower. Yes, thank you for the feedback. So we started talking about super gardens again about a year ago. We had started in 2017. We started to have some conversations, and then I pulled away to the riverfront park, which was some extraordinary. So came back last year. And one of the things that I think is really great that's happened since then, of course, is that the Whitaker Community Council has really sprung to life as a really vital organization for the community and investing in so many ways to help people and feel supported in their business and their life here. So it's been really great to have a conversation kind of within that new context and, you know, the programming that's been happening and the investment in the neighborhood. So I felt like we're really ready to have this conversation. So we had a first meeting in May of last year over at the Roosevelt Yard. In June, we had a park tour, which was super well attended. A lot of the pictures you'll see is of the park tour. And then we also had a first survey, and that first survey was just to gather information. So like, what are you worried about? What do you want? What do you love? What do you don't want? You know, and so then we took that information and, you know, for me, design is a conversation. So we often stick stuff out there for people to react to. And then, you know, we get your feedback and make some adjustments. If we make adjustments more than once, that's actually great. That's appropriate. So, and of course, our other challenge is often we get information sometimes that can feel conflicting. And so it's really our really our charge is to layer that information together, thread some needles and really find some solutions that, you know, help move things forward and address concerns. And, you know, I think we revitalize the park, right? So, in September, we came back to the neighborhood. And we had a second, and we had two different options that Sue and Steen have shared. And then Steen had also done her drawings, and she brought it to the, event. So it was, you know, everyone could see them, we had big conversations, and there was a second survey. We got a lot of great information from that second survey. At the bottom in green, I'm just gonna put a plug that we'll have an open house in the park on Thursday, July 9th, to talk about the design I'll share tonight. And it won't be particularly formal, I don't think, but it will be an opportunity for folks to come and talk about it, maybe see some images from different spots in the park and how it could look different or feel different. And if that feels right, it could be some changes. So, great. Okay. So as you saw, in Sue and Steen's presentation, these were the two designs that came forward. And yes, they had quite a bit of meeting at the front of the project. And there was, I mean, there were sort of similar approaches, I would say. I mean, one had a circle, one had a little path. I think we were trying to create some distinction between the two so people could pull pieces and say, oh, I really like this approach better or that, or, you know, but we weren't going to pick one or the other. It was really a way to combine to talk about the park and what's going on. There was definitely direction to put the playground toward the back of the site, really to draw people in. And let's see. And then also to basically remove that back fence to really expand the area that would be available for public use. So move it way back and much closer to neighbor fences, but still keep a buffer. And then also designate the community garden. This fencing thing had a little bit of a problem because it didn't, it created some funny nooks and crannies, and, you know, the fence didn't connect quite right. And, you know, there were a few things, but in general, we asked a whole bunch of questions about these plans. And, oh, and then there's students design as well, so I want to make sure that's within consideration. And you heard quite a bit about that, but it has some similarities, right? So like the playground is in the back, and it does address the fence problem in the corner by the community garden, and keeps all the trees and allows the green field. Next. Okay, so in the survey, we really tried to push this out and get people to take it. We got 58 responses. 83 of those responses were within the half house survey, but a lot of people were really close to a block or two. Mostly white because that's our city. And everyone was over 20, so there weren't like kids taking it. Next. Okay, and so this is what we heard. So I think, you know, the big broader concern is about safety in the park, and being able to use, everyone being able to use the park and feel comfortable about them there. That's kind of the umbrella under which we're working. Less concrete, please. Big one. Please include a restroom. There was quite a bit of conversation about keeping the playground toward the front of the park. And so, but it's not definitive, but there was definitely some more feedback that keeping it toward the front felt better, because in the back, maybe it would be too tucked back, like back there. It's a conversation, like that's a hard design conversation, right? I think you can see both sides of that. Like, well, it's tucked back there, are people gonna sleep back there, and then they can't be seen from the street. And so how do you find this balance between, you know, a little bit of refuge and observability in the park? So that's one that we're, you know, that's part of the conversation. People like the binding path better than the whole path. Keep and add to the trees and shade, big message. Add more park furniture, we heard that over and over. The stage is great. So there was a proposal in the two for a stage area, because we're programming the park quite a bit. And, everyone was really like into the stage. That was a really popular item. Program and activate the park more often, and I think where you guys are in the park on that. And I think the city is continuing to be supportive of those efforts. And that the community garden should be more public facing. So, yeah. And I think in the survey we had said, how do you feel about partnering with a nonprofit like Puerto, or, you know, something that just is more, benefits the community, right? So, so those are the big themes we heard. There's lots of little details in the comments. All of that information is online and available. So I think it's a 59-page report, but scroll all the way to the back, you can see people's writing comments. They're super helpful. Because they're not just pushing back on the policy. So with all of that information in hand, this is the design that we are now putting forward. So there's some big moves here, and they're a little bit hard to see, but you'll see them in the next iteration. So we kept the wooded path, we added a lot of furniture, all the trees are still there. That back fence is, well, the trees that are still there, and we can plan more. The back fence, there is more of the park open to the street, but the really big move is that we're putting in we're proposing a fence in the front of the park so that we could close the park at night. So it's a big move, and I think we've had mixed results about it. I'll show you some of the imagery, because I never thought this was the thing that I was gonna do anything, because it's not really popular. So the playground is also up front, because there's a fence there that can separate the street. The fence would have two big entry gates, like potentially, I think there's some really big opportunities for like local artists to, you know, decorate those entries. There's a sliding gate in the middle, so if we wanted to, you know, let the market spill into the park, maybe let a party spill on the sidewalk a little bit, we can use that. Next slide. And so this is an image of what it would look like from the west end of the park. So it's a pretty open, it's like a kind of a European style fence. And this, you can see the stage just inside. Part of me wants to like commission someone to paint a mural on the top of the stage every year this summer to give it. On the other side, we proposed the restroom in the street right away. So at the park, but outside of the park fence. And so that, and you know, the way we operate that can be a variety of ways. And the other thing about this is like, if we know what the plan is to operate the restroom, we're ready to put it in, we can put it in. We could also just plumb up for it and put it in later when there's a bigger plan for more restrooms in the Whitaker, which has certainly been a piece of feedback we've heard, is that we really want a restroom for the park. It can't be the only restroom in the Whitaker. I think that's a big piece of feedback. You go back to a second, but here you'll see there's lots of bike racks, lots of benches, lots of people in the park. The playground is right up front. It's pretty open, so it's not a shelter, so people aren't sleeping, you know, under it. And it's pretty easy to see through, which I like, especially for little people. And then and this is the view from inside the park now. So still a pretty open lawn. You know, we can add trees to any of this open lawn. I don't think, you know, there's a prohibition against that. But I think the point here is still like from an illustration standpoint, says sunny, so you can see people out in the sunshine. And then this is a view from the southwest corner from the community garden gate, looking back into the park. So what we proposed there was that the sidewalk would be wider on that west side, so you get maintenance vehicles back there, and then they can help from that access point. They can really help take out a lot of compost or debris or whatever. So that's our piece of the partnership. It's helping with debris and other stuff. And then this is just back to the plan. And then can you go back? The proposal for the community garden space would be that we would add a third partner to the agreement, to the adoption agreement. And so that partner would be like a Puerto or, you know, some of these other community garden folks. And that our community garden specialist, our staff person at the city, who does a ton of awesome work with community gardeners and volunteer and parks staff. She does amazing things with education and, you know, and gardens or, you know, designing some of these community gardens. Community gardens are very much self-driven, and so people can use the project there, we've been able to do that. And in this case, I think that third partner could easily be the WCC. And so, if you have a grant this year, then you could implement the grant in education, gardening education in the dog, right? And that's the third partner. Oh, you know, and then it's not and we revisit the agreement annually so that, you know, well, if WCC couldn't do it this year, or they wanted to shift who they were partnering with this time, it would have that kind of flexibility. So I think that's really important. I think, you know, for the WCC to take ownership over this piece in partnership with the city and the adjacent neighbors, I think provides a pretty outfacing and more transparent management of space, which is completely unique within Eugene's Village Parks. We just don't have property that's like took back like this, it's not visible. And the only adjacent properties are private properties. And so it's a really, like it's a hiding spot and it's something really hard for the city to even manage and maintain. And so to me, this is a much more activated space that has amazing potential for community to engage in through programming. So here's some next steps as we know them. The survey is live today. You can take it now. You can see these pictures online. You can review all of the survey responses that we've received online. That tentatively, I'm going to be at the Whitaker Market tabling on June 30th. I don't think I'll be there the whole time, but for part of the time, trying to get lots of people the information that we're sharing and hoping people will take the survey. And on July 9th, we'll have an open house in the park. And we'll be there to share some stuff, you know, what they did to the design, trying to improvements, et cetera.
I mean, it will be completed.
No.
Well, just to discuss
Just to discuss what I was just talking about. So yeah, so we still like to get lots of feedback on this plan still, and then if there are further considerations we want to make or changes we need to make based on that feedback, we can do that. It's like a 90% base, so we're not completely yet. You know, the next time. Okay, and so then the plan for the renovation process is that we would finalize the plan, I think, by the end of the summer. And then it would go into design development, land use permitting, cost estimating, budgeting, you know, all these sort of technical things. And we would work on that throughout the construction documentation. And then ideally we did it in early part of 26 and construct it in 2026 and we looking at it in the fall. You know, that's a couple of years. And so that's kind of funding, but we're starting to really start funding into it. I anticipate it will probably be around the $1.2 million project, because that's largely been what our neighborhood renovation has, you know. Yes, we're gathering that budget together. And so that's happening now. But I do think, you know, we've also had some feedback, like, could we keep the suggestions in the park now? And I think those are really, you know, those are super good suggestions. And you know, we have money within the project budget that we can invest in that and then, you know, put them aside when we're building and put them back. And so I think there's opportunities to add furniture and things that are really missing right now. But I'm excited about this plan because I feel like it does a really nice job of adding an accessible experience to the park. And it keeps a lot of what's existing. It activates, you know, just complicated, like the community garden, you know, it activates it to be more public facing and more community investment there. And I think it then, you know, also does a really nice job of providing recreation. So, and I think we reduce the amount of activity. To me, what's a level is a lot more. Because I agree, I thought those plans in general. So last slide. Um, there's the QR code for the survey. You take it now. That's my email, my colleague Rex's email. That's my project as well. And then that's the, that is the PHEG website for the project.
We have some questions.
Yes, happy to.
So, Dennis?
Yeah, Dan, you raised your hand first, I believe. We can't hear you, Dan. Are you there?
Well, I'm here, but I don't know if you can hear me. Let's try it again. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
You hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, super. Okay. So, I know, Emily, that, Parks and Open Space has gone to a great deal of trouble to make this, in a sense, a jewel of a project. And as you mentioned, it will be the only project of its kind in all of the park system. And personally speaking, I feel that you've rushed to judgment and not actually considered the impact it's going to have on the surrounding neighborhood. Remember that Scobert Park is an area the size of approximately 4 or 5 standard housing lots, which is 150 by 50. And imagine having amplified music and a bandstand that's open to anyone to use. I mean, there's apparently no control on who is allowed to use it and when. I mean, imagine the impact on the surrounding neighbors of that. Imagine what's going to happen to the community when you move the back fence way back to within 3 or 4 feet. What's going to happen, and I think you may have forgotten, but the community here has not forgotten, that space is going to immediately fill up with junkies and dealers. And it's going to become pandemonium back there. We know that because we've seen that for decades before the fence went up. And immediately when the fence went up, all those problems went away. I feel, and many of my neighbors feel, that you're just inviting that problem to come back to the park, and it will impact the community. So personally speaking, I'd rather not see any changes to the park if it's going to be loud music, or, I mean, you were even thinking of putting a basketball court in there, believe it or not. This is a small pocket park in the middle of a very tiny section of the neighborhood. It should not be used as a political football to try and incorporate every inclusive, diverse, whatever idea you think you want to jam in there. I think that's a complete mistake, and you're going to have a lot of very, very unhappy people.
Thank you, Dan. Did you have a question? Dan? Okay. All right. Gail?
Just a couple of issues.
Sure.
One is that, amplified music does require a permit in the park. So if there's amplified music and it's not permitted and they don't have a permit, then you can call ED or your regular community counselor, whoever, would tell you, but maybe there's an event going on, right? So I think, but it's a permitted thing. That's it. I think the location of the back fence, I think still has some wiggle room. The bike will be maintained. And that's what's really important to the back neighbors from everything I've heard for the last, 7 years. So it might move back and forth a little bit just to be able to maintain it effectively, but we're still opening up a good portion of the park more to public use, which I think is really important. So, and I think that's what I can say.
Yeah.
But you've changed it way too dramatically, Emily. Putting it within 3 feet of the property line is a complete mistake. Every plan I've seen has you doing that. All of them, all variations.
Gail's in the queue. Thank you. Gail?
Yes, I'm curious, do you have written notes for this presentation?
Oh, well, the presentation is being
So
recorded.
far from the microphone that everyone who is online was having a very hard time to understanding your presentation at all. If you would be willing to provide a link with written notes, at least I could have some concept of what it was you said, but I even had the closed captioning on and it was struggling. I'm so sorry, but I caught like quarter of what you said.
Share the slides and, I think for now, that's enough. We have open houses in the future. We're the first people to actually see this presentation. So there will be more to come. I'm sorry for everybody online that it was a poor experience at first. But we have many events coming after this involving the park. And we have so many events until there's a final decision. I'm sure everybody's opinion will be heard.
And Gail, so when we first did when we did our first Google Meets, we had difficulty with the owl and with online, but if you go and watch the video on YouTube, you can hear it perfectly. It records perfectly. It's amazing. And we do now also have written notes of every single thing that was said. Google itself has a much better transcriber than what we were using previously. So we will make sure for the link so that you can get online and read those. That's a great idea. Thank you for bringing it to our attention.
But I would like to just comment that unless there is some way to improve the audio during the live portion, people like me do not have the opportunity then to provide questions and feedback. I had a lot of interest in this meeting because this particular issue is very, very important to me. And I don't feel like I can even ask a coherent question because the technology has prevented that. Now I can go and watch this later, but it doesn't let me ask Emily Proudfoot right now, right here, why her design is so far off from Steen's design, which looks beautiful to me, considers all of the questions that the neighborhood has asked, does not make our park look like a prison, and is something that has been discussed over and over, and yet your proposal still includes a huge sea of concrete and now makes our park into a prison where it's closed off at night with a gate that looks like bars. I hate this so much. I don't even know how to express myself. But because I couldn't hear her presentation, I can't ask a coherent question. I feel as though I'm being shut out of this conversation, and it's making me very disappointed because this is the best way for me to attend. Anyway, that's my input.
Well, and just to add to that, unfortunately, our host, who is also a board member, she had to leave, and she does our technical stuff because her husband is having advice on surgery. Yeah, he had surgery today, and it was emergency surgery, so sorry about that. Yeah.
I just want to encourage everyone to take this survey, all the slides, all of the survey data from the two previous meetings and the two previous surveys are all online. Please go look at the data and please take our survey. That'll be the best way for us to have your recorded data and really, gather it along with everyone else's. Thank you.
Who's SLD?
I don't know. SLD, would you?
SLD?
You're up. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello? Are they still on?
Hi. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, this is Susan Detroit. And I want to say ditto to Gail and ditto to Dennis about all comments. The format is very frustrating. I did, before I say things about park design, I did attempt to come to the meeting in person, and there was no satisfactory place to park to lock my bike with my specific lock. So then I attempted to come on the Google, and it's very difficult to understand what's going. And I'm glad to hear that the recorded video is going to be easier to understand and to see and to watch after the fact. I have, like Dennis and others that have property along the back of the park. We spent a lot of time getting the buffer zone, and I've said this a bazillion times, and I want to reiterate, we spent a lot of time in meetings, Whitaker Community Council meetings with the park department, with maintenance, about having the safety of the buffer zone so that people are not jumping the fence. They are not using the area to become intoxicated or whatever other behavior might happen in that space. And I have to look again at all the designs, but I'm concerned about the animosity that's being developed over this design process. And I will take the survey, but my bottom line is my backyard abuts the buffer zone, and I want to feel the continued protection of people not jumping the fences and coming into my yard, or are also doing behaviors and ending up in the area that is supposed to keep us safe from that. I guess that's all I have to say, because I too was unable to understand what was being said and to comprehend the presentation. So I guess I will look at that when the meeting's over and then respond to the survey. That's all I have at the moment. Thanks.
Hey, Susan?
Yeah.
If you decide that you want to come to a meeting again, just bring your bike in the building. That's what I did when I rode my bike up there.
Okay.
So you don't have to worry about locking it outside, just bring it on in and park it. And that way we'll make sure that it's safe.
Okay. Thanks for saying that.
Of course. Elliot, who's next in the queue?
Yeah, so actually, I'm going to open up to in person in the floor. Can everybody raise their hand and I'll just assign you a number? 1, 2, 3, 4. Excellent. Remember your number. It will be called and we'll just do it that way. All right, go ahead.
Okay, I was curious, sorry, this is Steen. I was curious, there was a mention in talking about the community garden about adding an organization as a third partner on an agreement. Could you clarify for the broader community who the 3 partners would be in a 3-partner agreement?
Yeah. So it'd be City of Eugene, since we operate the property and own it. And then the adjacent, representatives of the adjacent homes, and then likely the Whitaker Community Council.
So just to clarify that, that would be 4 private households and the City of Eugene and an organization.
And the WCC, like.
And maybe the Whitaker Community Council. Okay.
I said not maybe, very likely. There will be a
Very
third
likely.
party.
Okay, I guess
And
we're
that
not-
party will be a public facing party that will program the site for public benefit.
So the private households that are now controlling that space would still be controlling that space.
They're not controlling it. They are.
Well, okay, it's chained and locked and gated.
Right.
To me, that's like.
And we weren't maintaining it, so, I mean, I know that it is not public facing, they are maintaining the site, we're looking to a third party to help us operate.
It's just so I mentioned the Whitaker Community Council. Because we are in the Whitaker, it is in the Whitaker, it's in Whitaker Park. And we currently are moving in those directions.
Thank you for answering that question.
Yeah.
Okay, question 2.
Can you vote again? The idea of them being out of the park, makes me incredibly uncomfortable. I live across from Toffee.
Oh, yeah.
There's already a huge
Yeah.
thing there, even when it's open, it's imposing.
Yeah.
It feels heavy,
Yeah.
it feels oppressive, and it's not. It does not feel acceptable. And I would rather deal with the issues of actually having the community in the park and it's supposed to be, than have a huge fence there 24/7. And no matter how pretty, I'm a metal worker, there's beautiful gate designs. A gate is still a gate, no matter how pretty it is.
I hear it, and I think, it's a big move. I mean, it wasn't when I was like ready to make. Yeah, it's a big design move, and I'm not sure, it wasn't really what I was ready to make. And then when I saw some of the pictures, I was like, oh, maybe this is something we can consider. And part of this is like, so it's really thinking about how can we have, we have this really big thing where a lot of people say, gosh, if you make it nice, it's just gonna get trashed again. Like, it's just, we've tried so many times to sort of improve the park and bring good things to it, and it just continues to kind of be a focal point for a lot of the city struggles that we're experiencing. I live here, I'm not a neighbor, to help solve some of the problems as a representative of the property, right? We are the property owners. So, so the fence idea is really, again, like, we're at 90% design, and if people are really against it, we're not gonna put it. Yeah. But it's an idea, and it's one I wanted to test because I think, because Scobart is unique. We do have right now, and I think it's really helping, we do have right now nighttime security.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll add you to the queue as number 6.
What I wanted to say is that we have a security, company right now that is, we have a security firm right now that is visiting Scobart, WJ, Monroe, and Martin Luther King, on a nightly basis. And they are informing people, that the park is closed, and it's been really helpful for our Christian folks in the morning when they come, and it's just an easier, and people are relatively, compliant, they're okay, they're moving on. And so from I don't like to call it enforcement, but, I mean, we have people who are coming to keep the park safe on a nightly basis. I don't know that we'll always have that, and so is closing, the ability to close the park at night, an option that would preserve that kind of safety piece? I don't know. I mean, some people just, you're not gonna like it. Some people might think, oh, this is familiar to me. I'm from a big urban area in New York or whatever, and this would be okay. People can be all over the place about it. I don't know that it's the right answer, but I thought it was a really interesting thing to think about. So, and I want other people to think about it. We're not, I mean, if people don't want it, we're not gonna do it.
Question 3.
I wanted to thank everybody for the presentation. I like seeing Sue's ideas a lot. I am so happy there's gonna be a bathroom.
Yes.
It's very, very great. I think the only bathroom in the world.
Yeah.
I'm one of the ones that started the concert series. When my daughter was little, I wanted her to be able to play in the park. And what I've noticed when there's activities in the park, everyone gets along. Yep, folks that are hanging out there, because they don't have any other place to go. They enjoy the music too. There used to be Tai Chi in the park. That was sure. So the more activities in the park, the better. We definitely heard it this survey, but yeah, it's fun. But I'm glad there's gonna be a bathroom. I'm sorry that I had such a big reaction to the fence, but it's okay. So it's okay. It's totally against the fence. Okay. And the idea of having concrete for a stage, I'd rather we not have that. For years, we've just had people come, we bring a little grass mat for them to have their stage on. All of the people that play in the park are perfectly happy with that grass stage, that grass mat stage, and we roll it up and carry it home. So, and we don't need a big cement.
What would you think about like another material? Like, what if it had like a wood deck on it, or would that feel better? I'm just curious.
No, but I don't think it's necessary. I'd rather the money be spent on other things and be more green grass. And, but thank you. Sure.
So, I would like to know, how soon you can move forward with actually putting a loo in there. It's on the street, it's not in the car. We're in huge need of a bathroom, no matter what happens.
Yeah.
As it was expressed and as I've seen many times in the neighborhood, even I'm 2 blocks away and I see it where I live. We definitely need restroom access. How long are we looking at? Because I'm pretty sure the majority of the neighborhood will be supportive of that.
Sure. Okay, so right now we have a restroom, but it's only available on an event basis, so it's pretty limited, right?
Mhm.
It does help the events, that's a good thing. But again, it's not, you know, it's not full service and it's not around the clock, right?
Correct.
So, you know, I mean, I'm definitely hearing like, gosh, could we add some park amenities like tables and benches and a picnic table? And could we get a restroom in earlier? And then maybe we have a second phase. So I'm nibbling about it, but because it's outside the park, we, you know, we could still, you know, do the work of it, just because it's a little bit independent. I mean, I can think about it. I mean, I should think about it.
Fantastic. Please get back to us and let us know what kind of time frame we can be
Yeah.
looking at.
I think,
Restroom unit.
yeah, and then I think also, I mean,
I know I'm tired of finding it outside my house.
of course, and I also wonder, I mean, for us, it's, a lot of it is about operating, right? And so if it's open all night, and it's destroyed, then we have to close it, go do all of our other stuff, and then come back, right? And so, is it okay? But it's just the details of the operation of it, I think are really critical to have probably extended conversations about, like, right? So, you know, is it a partnership with the WCC that we hire a third party to clean it 3 times a day, right? Or is it just the city that does that? Or is it like,
Or it's a city park, right?
right? But it also like, you know, oh, you know, are there, what about the breweries and would they help us with operating, you know, I don't know. I'm throwing things out there, but it is the city, it's a city thing and our capacity is so large. And so I just, you know, I just think it's something we need to talk about, and I think it's more successful with community investment.
Okay.
I don't want it just to be the city. I think we're better when we work together.
Yeah.
And I'm just a representative.
I know you're just doing your job. I
Right?
get that. Please everyone remember that.
Things.
So Gloria has a question.
I'm just wondering how are there other bathrooms like the one proposed already about town?
Yes.
And how are they consistently maintained?
Right, so,
Involvement.
so if we have one at the riverfront, and there's not, because no one lives there yet. Right, and there's one at the park blocks, and that is managed by our downtown team. So I,
Is there a city within the team?
no. I think of Whitaker as like our other like park center, like our downtown, you know, just I haven't seen. Yeah.
I know, I'm just wondering how. Why is it more problematic to maintain?
Maybe the answer is to step it up and maintain it 3 times a day, and we're gonna do this other stuff, right? I don't know, I just like, what I do know is that when we're working closely together with community and market and neighborhood, we are stronger together. And it helps, and we can problem solve together a lot more effectively than us just coming to you and saying, let's go.
Okay. Yes. Well,
And that's my.
So are there any other questions in the room before we go to Jen?
Apologies, I'm going to reestablish the queue. You are upset. Yeah. It's totally.
Sorry about that.
No.
Whose turn is
I live in the neighborhood. I appreciate both of the presentations and get a chance to ask questions to students' teams, but I do appreciate what was shown there. And then, you know, following. I've been, you know, following this, down the street, walking the dog there all the time, but there's some aspects of the uniqueness of this park. I think that's one of the things that have come up is, you know, we've got a third partner group with neighbors and potentially, one question I guess I had is, are there other parks within the city where there are adjacent neighbors, like household neighbors, that you're aware of? And then the second question with that was, are those neighbors considered partners with those parks? Because I do think there's an element there that's, I think it makes this space kind of unique.
Yeah.
The second question, it kind of deals with is with the fence, or fences, because I'm not entirely sure. Obviously, the fence is a total big move change, kind of initially kind of like, resistance. But if the part of the uniqueness of the site is the fact that it's surrounded on three sides by private residences, is the fence move intended, is that the only fence in front? Is that intended to help mitigate then if the park, which is supposed to be closed at night, but
Yeah.
you know, would be closed, formally closed with a gate, at night, if that was intended to provide the unique solution to the partners or the unique situation of the three sides, then it starts to feel a little bit like, okay, but my question is, it doesn't make any sense if there's a fence up at the front of the park and then there's still a fence in front of the back
Okay, so
yards.
let me explain. Because we asked this question, right? So I emailed all of the neighbors immediately adjacent to the park. And I asked them this question. I said, if we add a fence in the front, does it mean we could remove the buffer fence in the back? And the answer that I heard, and that was like a new learning for me, okay? So the answer was no, we need both. So the fence in the back creates a buffer, and it is to prevent bad activity, you know, basically the experience people are having against that south line is bad daytime activity. And that the people who are closer to the front of the park, adjacent to it, toward Fourth Avenue, are experiencing a lot of trouble at nighttime. And so the people closer to the street were said, the fence would really help us for bad nighttime behavior. And the people in the back are like, we still really need the fence for bad daytime behavior. And that is their logistics. And so, and I said, I have learned a thing. Okay.
Okay, do we have any other questions in the room?
So we will end questioning, we'll move on to.
Yeah, we're gonna move on, and we are right now going to give, we're running a little behind, but we kind of knew that would happen. But we're gonna give Brianna the floor. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, well. Sorry, Maria. That was a terrible introduction. Yeah, it's emotional. It's a very emotional topic. Yeah, it was.
Well, we have to look at, you want to sit closer to that.
Yeah, sure, yeah, I can mumble and. All right, well, I'm gonna change the tone or let's look at some great pictures. Okay. Let's look at some fun stuff that we do now. Now that we've gone through some topics. Okay. I'm gonna share my screen with you folks. I just kind of wanted to talk. Hi, I'm Dory Under Smith, Executive Director of the Whitaker Community Council. And can we just keep continuing? Okay. All right. I wanted to share some updates and pictures from our grants that we're working on right now. We have an interesting portfolio now. Let's see if that works. Okay, great. Works that. All right, so I wanted to kind of share current public health activity grants and who we are supported by in our endeavors. Our disaster resiliency program that's been running now quite some time.
That's in a great partnership with Oregon Health Authority and the CDC Foundation. So they've provided us with an infrastructure grant that helps fund our staff and our projects. We're working to kind of braid the grants in the public health sector into disaster resiliency. So one of those things that we went after was to increase food resiliency. And so in partnership with the Healthier Together Oregon, we have launched the WCC Small Garden Program. And the deal with that is that, you know, when we look at the data from the most recent City of Eugene neighborhood information survey, it really was kind of startling that 82% of folks in Whitaker are renters, and they do have very small spaces and not a lot of agency to grow their own food and be resilient, which is a huge part of disaster resiliency. If we can preserve our food, if we can learn how to be proficient with food, we're one step ahead of the game. So that's been an excellent grant to launch. We'll talk more about that in a minute, but here's some fun takeaways from our last event. We just hosted our second disaster resiliency event at the Washington Jefferson Park on May 11th. It was quite a hoot. We increased our partnerships at that point. We've been doing, we had the first one November 11th. So in total now, the Whitaker Community Council has been able to partner with 15 other community-based organizations. And some of that does include City of Eugene's management, emergency management. But this last round really kind of brought us closer to our home base of community people that are really aligned with our goals and values. So we had Friends of Trees, which did some really great conversations about heat, incredible climate issues, and how we can mitigate those by planting and changing our thoughts about trees in general. Like what are we really trying to shoot for? We were really happy to meet with Green Hill. They came out and did a presentation. We had our Map Your Neighborhood, which is sponsored and co-hosted with Julie Bowman here. We're grateful for that. We had our partners at Shift Community Cycle. They came and adopted bikes and talked to folks about when we don't have passable roads, how to hook up trailers, be proficient with moving stuff through the Whitaker. We had a great group MedTech resource come. They taught us some CPR and kind of extended the way we look at preparing. You know, we've had speakers in the past about how do you pack a go bag? What is a not coming home back? What those look like? How do we prepare for all the contingencies of the family, our pets, all those things? So those are really great resources to learn from. We also had a great turnout from our city officials. We had our community police officer Blonde came and talked to us. We had our EMT folks, fire department, CERT. They were great. They came and talked to people about communications, radio, how we break it down, NCOMs in the city, like how we would be relaying information from home to home bases that it ham radio and it goes higher up. So that was super informative, learning how to use the family radio service radios, which were super fun. I think we all sounded really silly on them, but it was great. So, yep, a lot of great speakers. And then we had a really fun event, the Recipes for Disaster. And this was a great competition that was supported by the Eugene Mission here. They gave us an incredible kitchen of non-perishable, shelf-stable foods. And so competitors here had to use just very limited water and no cooking. And I will say I'm absolutely stunned, and Margaret can attest to this, that the wild range of food that was created. Yeah, she didn't eat for a couple days after. We had 3 categories. It was crisis, comfort, disaster desserts, and then one scary combination of gluten-free and vegan, which was surprisingly amazing the things people came up with. So we were really fortunate to have Jennifer from Burrito Brigade come. She was a judge. Yeah, she was fabulous. So that just ridiculous amount of fun. Everybody was really bringing it. I'm humbled as a cook with like things with water and fire. So, let's see, we had one precious little young person there that won one of the prizes, which were really beautifully donated by Eugene Mission. We were so grateful. It was a beautiful basket with growing veggies and yummy things. So let's see, okay, and one last thing, this was so neat, that all the food that was left, which was a lot, went to Burrito Brigade, and then they were able to pass it on, so that was a great kind of closed circle of efficiency. Okay, so here's the small garden program, this again, we did launch this last Sunday at the Whitaker Market, and the turnout was amazing. We were grateful recipients of buckets from Hummingbird Wholesale. They donated all kinds of these basic growing buckets. We drilled tons of holes in the bottom of them. Our friends over at Backyard Farmers donated tons of, it's called Filthy Rich Organic Soil, and it was great fun to like kind of open the bags, get out the buckets filled, and then we made a new friend and community partner. He's there on the right side there, David Jones, somebody that raises incredible organic veggie seeds starts from seeds. So he brought 70 amazing varieties of food, and that was a great benefit. So that day we started with, yeah, those are the buckets, 120 veggie starts, and we gave out 85 of them, which is kind of a lot of food. It was really cool. In total, we provided 20 families with take-home buckets and then a bunch of other folks that were already doing gardening in small containers, like a little, you come out of your apartment, you got a cool little porch planter. Thank you. Yeah. So that was a great thing. We've got a couple more events coming up. We may run out of, we may hit our grant deliverables. So our Public Health and Safety Committee and I, we all got to meet last night and really talk through how we would extend the program. There may be more funds coming to us. And so if we move into potentially compost ways for folks, again, small composting, you may move into that. And then depending on if we're funded again with this grant, then we'll go further into winter gardening and then come full circle back in spring. So we could maybe expand it and we'll see how that goes. But right now, that was a wonderful start. We are looking for some volunteers to help us at the market. We've got these dates coming up. And we're splitting the shifts into kind of, half day. So I'd love to put that form for you in the chat. And if anybody's interested in joining us, we would love to have you. So, any questions? Pretty fun and easy.
Thanks.
Wait, I've got one more. Oh, I get it. One more thing, I'm gonna put this in the chat for folks, so we can come in. And I just want to say we have, we'll be excited to release some information at the end of this month. We did get another grant, which will be a third topic related to emergency resilience. Thank you. But we're waiting, our grantor asked us to wait until they do a national announcement. So look for that social media at the end of this month. We'll be launching in.
And so, we are all so grateful, Gloria, we're gonna, and Gloria in just a second, but we are all so grateful for Gloriandra, and she has done an incredible job. For those of you that don't know, she was hired, she's been with the WCC for almost 3 years, but she was hired on January 1 as our first full-time W-2 employee for our nonprofit. And also, I think that we broke into the cake, but that cake was actually because her birthday was on Monday. I wanted to wish her a happy birthday, Gloria. All right. We are just very lucky to have you. Thank you so much for everything. I am going to introduce Gloria. Many of you know her in the neighborhood. We have restarted with the community art team, which is fantastic. Lots of things are happening, and Gloria is going to come up. She is the co-chair of the Whitaker Community Art Team, and she's going to come up and talk about the Left Friday art.
Do I need to be in a certain place? Closer to the microphone.
So people can hear you.
I'm gonna just sit right here. Hi, I'm Gloria. I lived in the Whitaker since I was a teenager. My parents moved us here when I was 12, and they said, whatever you do, don't get off the bus in Whitaker. Moved in and never left. My husband and I have ran a business and lived in the Whitaker for the last 16 years. We have Equino Coffee, and we've lived on 4th Street, 3rd Street, 3rd Alley, and now we're a little closer to the river, which I don't mind. It's very nice. So anyway, I am an artist, and I've served as a venue to participate in the art walk for many, many years, and I've seen it come and go in different iterations depending on who's involved, and it's been something I've always been very excited about. So I'm super excited to be on the team this year, and we're just trying to revitalize it. I feel like since COVID, it's had a hard time gaining momentum, like a lot of activities in venues. So I'm here to speak on behalf of the art team. We've assembled a really great group of people. We're bringing a lot of energy to it and our incredible skill sets. We've started back up for the season, and we had our first one in May, and we'll run all the way through October. So we have a website, whitakerartwalk.com, and venues and artists can be matched up through that. There's an interactive map. So we're going to be making posters and providing venues with QR codes. So anywhere throughout the neighborhood, you'll be able to scan the map, and venues can print out paper maps as they see needed. We had 20 venues participate last month, which was like a reasonably quick start to the season, but there's potential for so many more, including just neighbors, yards, garages, personal studios. You don't have to be a venue to participate. Yeah, cool style. When I first started off, maybe I can't remember, it was 99 or 2000 at Possum Place, and it was in a house. And I think that's kind of how it started. So that is being incorporated back into the map, trying to get more just public art that is in the Whitaker, murals, sculptures, history. We're so rich with history and arts, and trying to just kind of revitalize this community as an arts district for us and the visiting neighborhoods who wanted to participate. And so it's just been really cool to see how much energy that's generated already in kind of cross promoting each other as artists and venues and neighborhoods, and just like a really positive thing to bring to the community. Tying into some of the other conversations, I lived here and observed and raised my kids here, and the more light and positive energy put out into the streets and into the community, it naturally neutralizes potential threats or discomfort, and just that feeding that through art is really a passion of mine, and it feels like it just benefits everybody. So I think that's about it. That's where we're at.
Yeah, something. So I've had multiple art shows and connected with the weekly at San Bon's, where they'll write that art about. So like, if other artists reach out to the weekly about their shows, or even the art walk reach out, they might do a write-up about it.
That would be great. I think we're on the calendar as like a general event, but having some attention brought to it.
And then just an article about the art walk being back.
Yeah, and it was a very
yeah,
so
and that would be great.
That would be great.
And the lady who just wrote in the most recent weekly about the show I have up at San Bon.
The photographer.
Yeah, but the lady who did the art she would be who to contact.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll reach out to you.
Because she's super all about it.
Sure.
Yeah, or just look it up online.
Yeah. We also have involved a tour guide, and that's a continuing conversation about how that will proceed forward. But a local person who knows a lot of history and does a lot of food tours, who's doing a guided walking tour. Has never really been part of the Whitaker.
No,
And it's guided, and just kind of as an introduction to the space. And the community.
Thank you.
So, and I'm gonna ask, Julie, our newly appointed secretary real quick, when do we start seeing shows?
I emailed you the thing, I don't know if you can pull it up real quick, it could have been better prepared.
We have about 3 minutes to go.
Our music shows start Thursday night, July 18th. It runs every Thursday for 5 weeks. Music starts around 7 and lasts until about 8:30 or whenever it gets dark or the band gets tired. I'm thrilled to say that after years of asking these wonderful people to play for tips, that we've got money. Through the Parks Grant. So we're kicking our money up. Brian McCutcheon always starts us off the week after Country Fair, and he's continuing a tradition that I think lasted over 20 years.
Yeah.
We had an amazing lineup for closing. We've got 4 concerts. Closing out the Samba Jock. And then on August 24th, we'll be celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Whitaker Community Council. It's gonna be all day. I'm talking that. It's not say the right time. Where it's at Stewart Gardens Park. All of these rooms are at Stewart Gardens. Yeah. 8:24. No, 8:24.
16/7, 1 in July.
No, we don't do that. We start at 8.
Oh, good.
And we do have.
Anniversary should be fantastic.
It's gonna be from 12 to 7. We're gonna have a free ice cream from 12:30 to 4:30. I've got free face painting and balloon animals. It's gonna be live music and yard games. Katie Piercy and Senator Manning have committed to speak, along with a handful of other awesome people. Big Sam Hans. Yeah. It's gonna be amazing.
Okay, pretty good. Thank you, Julie, for staying up to have you. Okay, so just a quick announcement, there is no meeting in July. We took a vote, we're taking the month of July off. So there will be no, board meeting, there will be no general meeting in the month of July. You're welcome, we do have a board meeting, next week. That is a board meeting where we vote. We talk about motions, that kind of thing. You're welcome to always come and observe. We have 10 minutes of open comment, and then after the open comment, we ask that anyone who is not a board member or not a chair of a committee, that they mute themselves and kind of just observe the meeting if that's what they want to do. It's always open to the public, and it will be posted and it will be out there. So thank you very much for joining the show.
July and, July and
July, December. Yeah. But, you know, we'll talk about December when we get close. Thank you very much for coming. All right.
Oh, no.